Good evening and welcome to the Anaheim Planning Commission meeting of March 24th, 2025. My name is Jeannie Tran Martin, Vice Chairperson of the Anaheim Planning Commission. As a reminder, Planning Commission meetings are broadcast on all of our channels, including on the web and Anaheim TV Channel 3. The first order of business is to salute our flag. Commissioner Kelly will lead us in the flag salute.
Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
Thank you. Next, I will ask the Planning Commission Secretary to take a verbal roll call vote for all planning commissioners.
Chairperson Walker. Vice Chair Tran Martin.
Present.
Commissioner Lieberman.
Here.
Commissioner Perez.
Here.
Commissioner Castro.
Here.
Commissioner Abdul Rahman.
Here.
Commissioner Kelly.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If you would all please silence your electronic communication devices so that they do not disrupt the proceedings, we would appreciate that. The doors at the back of the room are automatic. They open when you get close to them and they don't close until you have walked down the hall. Please move away from the automatic doors and allow them to close. Today, we have 2 public hearing items on our agenda. I would ask members of the public who wish to speak during the workshop to please complete a yellow speaker card and give it to staff if you have not already done so. The cards can be found on the table at the entrance. Please keep your remarks as brief as you can. We are influenced more by the content than the length of your presentation. First, we provide an opportunity for any member of the public to speak on items of interest to the public that are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Is there anyone here to speak at this time? If so, please come forward. Seeing no one, we will move to the public hearing. Prior to beginning the public hearing, I will ask the planning commissioners for any disclosures they wish to make regarding public hearing items on today's agenda. Please note that actions taken by the Planning Commission tonight for item number 1 will be final unless in 10 calendar days an appeal is filed with the city clerk. The appeal deadline is Thursday, April 3rd, 2025 at 5 p.m. Appeal forms and information are available on the city clerk's webpage. Item number 2 is a request for the Planning Commission to recommend City Council approval for consideration at a future City Council meeting. I will now begin the public hearing and ask staff to present item number 1. Stacy?
Good evening, Vice Chair Martin and members of the Planning Commission. The item before you tonight is a conditional use permit amendment to allow a building expansion and a fence variance for Toyota of Anaheim. The approximately 7-acre site is located at the northwest corner of Euclid Street and Medical Center Drive, directly south of the 91 freeway. The project site has a general plan and zoning designation of general commercial. Surrounding land uses include commercial and single-family residences to the east, commercial and medical office uses to the south, a senior community to the west, and the 91 freeway to the north. The dealership currently offers vehicle sales and auto repair services. The applicant is requesting approval to construct an 8,939 square foot service repair addition in the existing dealership located at the rear of the property shown in red. This shows the existing and proposed floor plan. The addition would include 12 service bays and 4 wash bays. Total building square footage would be 83,930 square feet with the addition. The parking requirement for the addition requires 36 spaces. In total, the dealership would require 329 parking spaces, all of which would be provided on site. Additionally, over 260 spaces are used for vehicle sales inventory. This is a current view of the dealership building from Euclid Street looking west. Shown in the red dotted areas is the proposed addition from different viewpoints. The addition would be 26 foot high attached to the rear of the existing 40-foot high building. The applicant is requesting a variance to retain a fence within the required 10-foot setback along Medical Center Drive where only 3 feet height is permitted. The property has a legal non-conforming landscape setback of 4 feet 6 inches from the property line where a fence and parking spaces are located, shown in the existing image. The fenced area is used to secure customer vehicles awaiting pickup after service and also restricts access to the dealership's back-of-house operations. Because of the property's legal non-conforming setback, installing a compliant fence would require relocating the fence further into the site, causing a loss of required parking spaces or reducing the fence height in a critical area for dealership operations. The applicant has proposed to reduce the existing fence height from 8 to 6 feet height while maintaining its current location. Other properties with conforming setbacks in the same zoning district have installed a 6-foot high fence behind the required setback without loss of parking. Additionally, the Planning Commission approved a similar 6-foot fence variance for another business along Medical Center Drive last year. The city currently operates as an automotive dealership offering sales and repair services. The proposed building addition will expand these existing services without negatively impacting the surrounding area. The addition complies with all applicable development standards, including setbacks and parking requirements. Staff believes the conditions for granting the variance have been met due to special circumstances related to the property's existing legal non-conforming setback. Again, a similar fence variance was approved for another property on the same street in 2024. Therefore, staff supports both the building expansion and the variance request and recommends approval of the application subject to conditions of approval. Before I conclude, I would like to add that after distribution of the packet with the draft project resolution, staff and the applicant spoke regarding the timing of condition number 2 as it relates to soil testing and agreed that the condition is more appropriate to be moved from prior to grading permit issuance to ongoing during grading, construction, and operations. As such, staff recommends that condition 2 be moved to the correct time frame, and all the conditions will be renumbered accordingly in the project resolution. This concludes staff's presentation. Staff and the applicant team are available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions for staff? Okay. I will now open the public hearing and ask the applicant if they would like to come forward and make any comments.
Good evening, everyone. My name is David Clear. I'm part of the design team. We just wanted to quickly walk you through a little bit more in depth of the proposed project. Next slide. So this is the same site plan that you just saw. We just wanted to note that the rectangle in blue is an existing facility on site that washes and details cars that we would be removing. Next slide. And so, back one. And so now that has been replaced with the building addition of just shy of 9,000 square feet. Next. Next one. Yeah, okay, so we did just a little enlarged floor plan to show 12 new service bays, and then the 4 detail bays that were being knocked down are being replaced in this new building. Next. And then we did a 3D rendering. Not truly exciting, but it just shows the new addition in with the old building. Next. And then I think we already saw the colored elevations. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will now ask the Planning Commission Secretary to call forward any comments from members of the public.
Josh Irvine?
good evening. My name is Brad Johnson. I'm head of construction for the owner, Group 1 Automotive. We own Toyota of Anaheim. I think Stacy and Dave did a great job presenting. If there is any questions, we welcome any thoughts, and we appreciate your consideration.
Brad Johnson.
Oh,
Already spoken. There won't be any other presenters this evening.
Thank you. Seeing no other members of the public wishing to speak on this item, I will close the public hearing and open it up for Planning Commission discussion.
I'll make the motion to approve with the changes to condition 2 for the correct timing sequence.
I'll say.
We have a motion and a second. May we get a roll call vote?
Six yes votes, the motion carries.
Thank you. We will now move on to item number 2, and we will have a staff presentation by Nick.
Good evening, Vice Chair Tran Martin, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Nick Taylor, Principal Planner. With me tonight, we have Heather Allen, Acting Director, as well as other staff members, and the city's consultant team is in the audience as well. Tonight's public hearing is regarding the General Plan Update Project and Program Environmental Impact Report. This is a companion effort to the 6th cycle housing element, which was recommended for City Council approval by the Planning Commission at its March 10th meeting. Similarly, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission forward this item to the City Council with a recommendation of approval. We last presented the general plan update as a workshop for the Planning Commission on January 27th. As a refresher, Anaheim's general plan was last updated on a comprehensive basis in 2004 with a number of incremental amendments as well as individual element updates since that time. The safety element was also recently updated in 2023. This focused update includes the land use and circulation elements and the addition of an environmental justice element. With these updates, the city is updating its general plan to guide growth and development through 2045. In addition to the general plan amendments, the project includes zoning code and zoning map and Platinum Triangle Master Land Use Plan amendments, as well as the corresponding environmental analysis. Key objectives of the project are to address housing needs, create additional development opportunities along corridors, create clear community design standards building on existing policy, align with various state requirements, and then facilitate future streamlined environmental reviews. The city has been assigned facilitation of the production of over 17,000 housing units through 2029. To meet this need across all income levels, we've identified 346 candidate sites citywide, and of those, 195 will require a change in general plan land use designation. Additionally, there are 29 neighboring sites that, while not originally included in the housing element, should receive consistent land use treatment. These sites were selected based on factors like proximity to transit, potential for redevelopment, and in some cases, underperforming land uses, all while ensuring compliance with state law and reflecting development trends in the city. After completing the C3 Vision Plan in April 2020, the city focused on creating a regulatory framework to improve conditions and attract economic investment along key corridors, including La Palma Avenue, Lincoln Avenue, Broadway, Ball Road, Harbor Boulevard, and Anaheim Boulevard. This area is generally bounded by East and West Streets and then the 91 freeway to the north, and extends to the south, the Anaheim Resort and Platinum Triangle. As part of the C3 plan, 863 sites were identified for a change in the general plan land use designation. Several recommendations were made to create a new regulatory framework which will apply citywide through the land use element update. One of the key recommendations was establishment of new mixed-use land use designations to accommodate various densities and project types. These new designations include mixed-use corridor with a density of up to 6.5 dwelling units per acre and a floor area ratio of up to 0.5. Mixed-use low-medium with up to 18 units per acre and FAR of up to 0.35. And last, the mixed-use industrial with up to 30 dwelling units per acre and an FAR up to 1.0. Additionally, the C3 plan recommended setting minimum residential densities of 18 units per acre for the mixed-use medium and 30 units per acre for the mixed-use high designations. It also proposed changing the implementing zoning for mixed-use urban core from downtown mixed use to mixed-use urban core. As part of this project, we're also updating various tables in the general plan, including tables LU2 and LU3 for residential and non-residential land use designations. We're also removing references to the downtown mixed-use overlay zone and updating figure LU4, the land use plan, as well as tables LU5 and LU6 based on the 2045 build-out analysis. Some additional amendments that are being proposed to the institutional land use designation. The current designation will be split into institutional high and institutional low. Most of the properties with this designation will be redesignated as institutional low, but the City Hall complex and also hospital and medical center properties will be redesignated as institutional high, which reflects the current use and scale of those properties. We're also proposing a new implementing zoning for the corridor residential land use designation. This change would provide more options for multifamily development on properties with a density of up to 13 dwelling units per acre. And lastly, we're making a minor update to the section of the general plan that describes the intermodal transportation center. This section originally referred to the area before Arctic was built. So now we're updating it to reflect Arctic's role as a major transportation hub for Orange County and all of Southern California. With this project, we're proposing amendments for a total of 1,087 sites. You can find detailed maps of these sites by district in attachment 6A to the staff report. This exhibit here shows a citywide overview of those areas where the parcel level changes are identified to occur on sites identified through either the housing element or through the C3 implementation plan. These changes add or increase residential density on identified sites, including, in addition to the currently permitted or planned non-residential development, providing owners with additional development options for their property, or removing a constraint on the development of the site due to an inconsistency between general plan and zoning. Collectively, these land use element amendments implement housing production strategies 1H and 1R from the 6th cycle housing element. Next, I'm going to introduce Joe Alcock, our Principal Transportation Planner with Public Works, and he's going to provide you an update on the circulation element.
Good evening, Planning Commission members. Again, Joe Alcock, Principal Transportation Planner here at the city. And diving into the circulation element, so this element identifies the location of existing and proposed transportation facilities. And it also specifies policies, programs, actions which would support the efficient movement of people and goods throughout the city and to the broader Southern California region. Next slide. And as this slide shows, there were 4 big things that we focused on in this update to the circulation element. First, we did our traffic analysis. We updated our traffic analysis model so we could develop a traffic forecast based on the proposed land use changes that Nick just described. and evaluate both those land use changes and policy changes to see what impact, if any, those changes would have on the city's transportation networks. Then we updated the circulation elements goals and policies, which were largely untouched since 2004, so they were a bit dated. Next, based on that traffic forecast I mentioned, we did develop transportation network changes to accommodate future growth, and I'll cover those in a couple slides later on. And then finally, we made tweaks to address the state's evolving greenhouse gas emission reduction goals and requirements. So with respect to the circulation element's vision and goals, they're shown here on this slide, and really the vision is focused on two components. The first is to maintain throughput and system performance. We have a network that works pretty good today, and we want to make sure that it continues operating well in the future while accommodating the planned growth that we do see coming. The second component is focused on multimodalism, so ensuring that the city's transportation system is able to provide for the mobility needs of all users. And then the circulation element's proposed goals that have changed include supporting active transportation. So again, making sure the city's transportation system are multimodal and they can accommodate all users, whether they be moms with strollers, bike riders, cars, transit, trucks, or Amazon delivery vans. Supporting public transit and ride sharing with our tourist economy here in the city and the state's greenhouse gas emissions requirements. It's critical that as a goal we continue to focus on seamlessly integrating the various transit systems that do operate here in the city, and while also being open to new service models and transit concepts. We support enhanced transportation safety. We're recommending it's a goal to promote a fiscally sound transportation system, and then again adhering to the state's greenhouse gas requirements. These recommended changes to the goals and policies are to improve conciseness, ease of understanding, to remove old policies, provide the city with flexibility, and to reflect the changes which have occurred at the state level as well as the planning field since the last update of the general plan. And this slide provides an overview of the proposed circulation element topic areas. In terms of the vehicular network, we maintained our focus on system performance and added consideration for emerging technologies. Regarding safety, we are prioritizing implementation of the city's local roadway safety plan, as well as supporting evacuation planning efforts. For complete streets and active transportation, again, much more emphasis here on having a robust system that covers everything from people walking to all the way up through trucks. For public transit, it's supporting existing and new service models, evaluating them where appropriate, providing flexibility to see how new kind of transit concepts could work in the city, so things like first, last mile consideration or mobility hubs. For the greenhouse gas and VMT, we're focused on meeting the state requirements. In terms of funding, we're recommending, or the policy here is identifying the need to pursue outside funding first, so that we can leverage whatever scarce resources we have with outside dollars. And we're also emphasizing the need to plan, implement, and develop projects that are fiscally sustainable both now and then in perpetuity. In terms of aviation, we're meeting the state and federal requirements while also looking there at newer technology concepts that are emerging like drones and vertiports. And then finally, with goods movement, we're focusing on ensuring that the transportation system continues to meet the city's economic needs while acknowledging the influence that e-commerce is having on our local streets and neighborhoods, and while also ensuring that they're contributing to the economy and ensuring that the overall transportation network is working well. Here, I mentioned we recommended some changes to the proposed roadway network, relatively minor. The first one is we're recommending removal of a small piece of Weir Canyon. It's not built, it was a planned roadway that was going to extend from its current terminus out to the State Route 241. Well, land use has changed in that area. That link is no longer needed, so that is being recommended to be pulled out of our circulation network. And then we have three changes that are really just kind of nomenclature changes. They're classified one way on the old general plan, and they're classified another way on the Orange County Master Plan of Arterial Highways. We're making changes to be consistent here on Disneyland Drive, Lemon Street, and Raymond, to be consistent with the Orange County Master Plan of Arterial Highways so that we can continue our eligibility to receive the M2 Transportation Sales Tax funds here at the city. Next slide. And then in terms of the bike network, two changes. We are proposing to add a Class 3 bike lane on what is known as Stanley Cup Way, which is from Douglas Street to River Road. This is part of the OC Vibe development. And then adding a Class 2 bike lane on Lincoln Avenue from Euclid to Manchester. This area in the old plan was industrial. It's evolving, changing into more of a residential character, which tends to attract more bike trips. So that's kind of the impetus there for that recommended change. And then on this slide, just an overview of our technical analysis and the findings we performed. We looked overall, the system currently operates pretty well. In the future, it looks like it's going to be operating pretty well as well. We analyzed 154 roadway segments, 254 intersections, and we found that with the proposed changes, system performance in general did improve as compared to the existing general plan. Under the circulation element, the current circulation element, there were 5 intersections identified as not meeting our city policy for level of service performance. Under this new plan, there is just 1 intersection, and we believe this intersection is more of a model capacity assumption. In the model, it's assuming a build-out scenario, which we think is not necessarily the best scenario. So we're going to work with Caltrans. It's a Caltrans intersection to make sure that we can see continued positive operations at that facility in the future. And then in terms of CEQA, we did our BMT analysis, and with the forecast, we found that we didn't trigger any CEQA impacts related to transportation. So overall, we don't have concerns with congestion or CEQA, and it looks like the system will continue to operate pretty well in the future. With that, I'll wrap things up and hand it back to Nick. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe. Senate Bill 1000, the Planning for Healthy Communities Act of 2016 requires local governments with environmental justice communities to include EJ policies within their general plans when we're revising at least 2 elements anytime after January 1st, 2018. Environmental justice ensures fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of background in environmental decision-making. It seeks to prevent any group from facing a disproportionate share of negative environmental impacts from industrial, governmental, or commercial activities. According to the State of California Environmental Protection Agency's mapping tool, CalEnviroScreen, 51 of Anaheim's 78 census tracts are considered EJ communities. These communities face higher pollution, exposure, and socioeconomic challenges than other areas. Adoption of the EJ element implements Affordable Housing Opportunity Strategy 5E, affirmatively further fair housing, addressing place-based strategies for EJ discrepancy. While several elements of Anaheim's general plan already address EJ-related topics, the EJ element expands on these efforts by integrating community feedback and environmental data to establish new goals. The EJ element identifies goals and policies in 8 key areas ranging from reducing pollution to ensuring safe and sanitary homes. The EJ element addresses connection between housing conditions, affordability, and public health throughout the city with an emphasis on EJ communities. On August 1st, 2022, staff held a workshop with the Planning Commission to discuss the EJ element as well as the safety element update. The safety element was later adopted. During the workshop, staff provided background information on the EJ element and reviewed sample policies included in the document, which are reducing pollution exposure and improving air quality, promoting public facilities, enhancing food access, ensuring safe and sanitary housing, encouraging physical activity, addressing health risks and disparities, increasing civic engagement in decision-making, and prioritizing programs for disadvantaged communities. The housing element, C3 implementation plans, and updates to other general plan elements previously described require updates to the city's zoning code to ensure consistency and allow for future implementation of policies and programs identified in the general plan update. Title 18, zoning of the Anaheim Municipal Code would be amended to add Chapter 1812, mixed-use zones, the purpose of which is to define allowable land uses and property development standards for the mixed-use zone, discussed on the next slide. The amendments also include new objective design standards as Chapter 1839, designed to ensure the quality and certainty for future development that will also be discussed on an upcoming slide. As mentioned, Chapter 18 will be added to the zoning code to establish land use and development standards for all existing and new mixed-use zones. The development standards were designed to address the unique characteristics and development needs of the 7 mixed-use zones and the surrounding environment, promoting market-driven land use changes, infill development, and ease of implementation. This chapter introduces 2 distinct review processes for various development types within mixed-use zones. Standalone residential and non-residential projects that comply with zoning requirements may submit construction drawings directly to the building division for approval. Mixed-use projects, however, require a final site plan application with a decision from the planning and building director, whom also has the option to refer the decision to the Planning Commission. This amendment implements Housing Production Strategy 1T, consideration of new zoning tools. In response to Senate Bill 330, which prohibits denying housing projects based on subjective design standards, Chapter 1839 was drafted to establish objective design standards, or ODS, for multifamily and mixed-use developments. This ensures high-quality design, aligns with the community design element, and streamlines the approval process. The objective design standards address design topics such as site planning, mass and scale, materials and frontage types, and historic adjacencies. The objective design standards are written in clear, objective terms consistent with recent state housing laws. Additionally, a frontage-type design manual was introduced as an administrative supplement to the ODS, detailing how buildings interact with sidewalks to enhance the pedestrian environment and maintain desired building form and quality. This amendment implements Housing Production Strategy 1P, review of entitlement processes, development standards, and development fees as it relates to the removal of subjective language from findings of approval, and Housing Quality and Design Strategy 3, community design. California Assembly Bill 2097, signed into law in 2022, prohibits cities and counties from imposing minimum parking requirements on most new developments located near public transit. This means that local governments cannot mandate a specific number of parking spaces for residential, commercial, or mixed-use projects within a half mile of a major transit stop. By eliminating parking minimums, this law aims to reduce development costs and encourage housing construction in transit-accessible areas, supporting efforts to increase housing availability and promotes sustainable urban growth. Proposed amendments to various zoning code chapters would implement AB 2097 by incorporating references to the relevant California government code provisions. This amendment implements Housing Production Strategy 1X, parking near public transit. Additional amendments include allowing dwellings to be permitted on properties with residential or mixed-use land use designations in the general plan that are industrial zoned or in limited areas in the Anaheim Canyon in proximity to the Anaheim Canyon Station and or to support the local workforce. This is identified as housing element candidate sites. Ensuring that in addition to pursuing by right development under the Residential Opportunity Overlay Zone, qualifying development on specified sites from prior housing element cycles is considered by right. This amendment implements Housing Production Strategy 1K, use of sites from previous housing element cycles. Next, implementing new institutional designations, and last, requiring future development to comply with standard conditions of approval. With the establishment of the mixed-use zones, the mixed-use and downtown mixed-use overlay zones are no longer needed and will be rescinded. Development standards unique to the downtown mixed-use overlay zone have been incorporated into the mixed-use zones chapter. The proposed amendments to the Platinum Triangle Master Land Use Plan will reflect the changes in the general plan by creating new residential and mixed-use opportunities in areas previously not identified for housing. This will increase the total number of residential units in the Platinum Triangle by 6,309 units. The amendments can be broken down into 3 groups. The first amendment is the introduction of the mixed-use medium land use designation to the periphery of the Platinum Triangle, identified on this slide with the dashed circles. Previously, only the mixed-use urban core land use designation provided for residential development in the Platinum Triangle. The addition of the mixed-use medium land use designation will allow for a diverse range of housing types to be constructed in the neighborhood. This amendment implements Housing Production Strategy 1G, implementation of the Platinum Triangle Master Land Use Plan. The Platinum Triangle is comprised of 10 development areas, each with a specific allocation of development intensity. The second amendment to the Platinum Triangle Master Land Use Plan allocates the additional residential units into 3 districts: the Catella District, the Office District, and then the newly established Sunkist Lewis District. And then the third amendment to the Platinum Triangle Master Land Use Plan consists of comprehensive updates to the Master Land Use Plan to reflect the proposed increase in residential development within the Platinum Triangle. These updates include modifying chapters, revising maps, figures, text, and tables throughout the Master Land Use Plan document. A program EIR is a type of EIR that's used to evaluate a project such as a general plan update or a specific plan, which includes a series of actions that may be considered as one large project and are related either geographically or as logical parts in the chain of contemplated actions. Use of a program EIR provides the opportunity to consider broad policy alternatives and program-wide mitigation measures, along with greater flexibility to address project-specific and cumulative environmental issues on a comprehensive basis. The program-level environmental review for the general plan update and the C3 specific plan began with the notices of preparation and scoping meetings back in February and March of 2022. The purposes of the notices of preparation and scoping meetings was to request input from agencies, residents, and interested parties on the scope and content of the environmental information that should be included in the PEIR. The draft PEIR was made available for public review on December 20th for a 45-day period. During that time, the city received comment letters from 3 agencies, 1 organization, and 2 verbal comments at the Planning Commission workshop. The city prepared responses, and those have all been included in the final PEIR. An EIR can include up to 20 topics. Of those 20, the program EIR concluded that the project would have no effects related to agricultural and forestry resources and mineral resources, which left 18 topics to be further analyzed in the draft. For each topic, the analysis evaluated the level of impact as less than significant with mitigation, or significant and unavoidable. Although the criteria for determining significance are different for each topic area, the environmental analysis applies a uniform classification of the impacts based on definitions consistent with CEQA and the CEQA guidelines. Of the 18 topics analyzed in the PEIR, 11 were found to be less than significant, with geology soils only requiring mitigation related to paleontological resources. 3 additional topic areas were found to be less than significant with mitigation. These are biological, cultural, and tribal cultural resources. As a matter of practice, the city has been implementing many conditions that relate to topics addressed by CEQA. Compliance with these standard conditions would further reduce negative impacts for future development. The city will be adopting these and and other master standard conditions of approval that are applied to all development projects through the plan check review process as applicable as a component of project actions. So as I just mentioned, the draft PEIR includes these standard conditions to streamline future CEQA reviews. These conditions ensure that environmental impacts are properly addressed or that a project justifies why a specific condition does not apply. Appendix G of the draft PEIR provides a comprehensive list of the SCAs, which are integrated into the relevant analysis chapters. Additionally, the SCAs have been codified into the zoning code under Chapter 1890, improving the efficiency in the environmental review process. So there were 3 topics that would result in significant and unavoidable adverse impacts. The first being air quality, both construction and operation. At the programmatic level of analysis, there are no feasible mitigation measures beyond the standard conditions. And while the standard conditions would reduce impacts, the impacts would remain significant and unavoidable. Greenhouse gas emissions. So the general plan update would focus growth in areas of the city where services already exist or can be expanded or extended to serve new, more intensive development. Policies included in the circulation element would further serve to guide development and transportation options, reducing VMT and related GHG emissions. The general plan update would result in a substantial decrease in GHG emissions, about 20%, but would not meet the 85% reduction goal by 2045 as established in AB 1279. Therefore, GHG emissions are considered significant and unavoidable. Noise for construction, operation, and vibration, with the implementation of the general plan goals and policies, existing codes and regulations, as well as mitigation measures, would reduce potential short-term and long-term noise impacts to the extent feasible. However, because specific project details are not yet known, impacts associated with construction and operation stationary noise would be significant and unavoidable. And regarding traffic noise, certain roadway segments within the city could experience excessive increases in traffic noise at build-out. Throughout the general plan update process, the city has prioritized community engagement to ensure meaningful public input. For the C3 plan, we conducted in-person outreach at district meetings, community events, and open houses, as well as virtual stakeholder meetings, and an interactive story map website where residents could provide feedback. For the environmental justice element, we maintained a dedicated project website with ongoing updates and opportunities for input. Outreach efforts included bilingual flyers, social media promotions, virtual workshops, and a focus group with community leaders to address key environmental justice concerns. The land use element involved extensive public engagement, particularly in selecting housing sites for the 6th cycle housing element update. This included community workshops, technical focus groups, surveys, and multiple meetings with the Planning Commission, Housing and Community Development Commission, and City Council. For the circulation element, we hosted a public workshop, attended community meetings, conducted a survey, and engaged a technical advisory committee. And based on the feedback received, we revised the circulation element's goals to improve clarity and adapt to evolving transportation funding challenges. And finally, to ensure transparency ahead of the Planning Commission public hearing, we mailed notices to over 1,000 property owners affected by land use designation changes, providing details on the modifications while clarifying zoning and development standards. Staff engaged directly with property owners, responding to questions and addressing concerns. Through these efforts, we've worked to ensure that the community has had multiple opportunities to participate, shaping a general plan that reflects the needs and priorities of Anaheim's residents. So with that, we're pleased to present this item to the Planning Commission. It's the culmination of multiple years of work across multiple departments, as well as various stakeholder groups. As mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, this is a companion effort to the housing element update. Approval and adoption of this project will ultimately enable certification by the state of the housing element because the general plan updates and implementing zoning actions fulfill the city's assigned regional housing need. So staff is requesting a recommendation of approval for presentation to the city council next month. I'd like to let the Planning Commission know that after the agenda was posted, we received 5 pieces of correspondence. They have been provided to the commission. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you for bearing with me. Staff is available, and we also have our consultant team in the audience as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. Any questions from the Planning Commission? Okay, Commissioner Lieberman.
Thank you, Nick. That was quite a presentation. If you can find it, please. I would like some clarification on understanding some of the rezoning. So the map I'm going to ask you for has to do with the rezoned areas. Specifically, if you could bring up the one that includes the Anaheim Colony area downtown. Perfect. There are some properties on here of the, I don't know what color you call it, the large ochre rectangle on the far right. There is a large brown rectangle, I don't know where is that Broadway, and I believe it's Citron. And there are quite a few on this map where the existing structures are on these properties are already, multi-residential situations. Not all of them on the map, but a good portion of them. And so what are we doing here is, for example, the ochre rectangle on the right. I think that's either Colony Park or the old Kaufman and Broad homes. So it's from the last these projects were built before the last general plan was approved. So the zoning had already had to been rezoned. So what are we doing here? I'm not understanding something here.
Sure. So we generally have 3 categories. So we're not proposing to rezone. The zoning remains in place. So a property owner could continue to use and develop their property under the existing zoning, not taking anything away. What we are doing, the 3 different categories, we are either adding new residential density, additional residential density where residential already could be built or developed. We're introducing greater flexibility. This is another category. So you'll see several properties that had a residential designation only, and they would now be getting a mixed-use designation. So that would continue to allow residential, but would allow additional flexibility. And then the other category would be rectifying existing discrepancies between general plan and zoning. So we would be bringing the general plan into consistency with the existing zoning. So those are the 3 categories.
So how am I to know if let's use, again, this ochre one. How am I to know if you're increasing the density from what's already there, based on this map I'm looking at, or, how do I know what you're doing?
So this was part of the 1,000+ individual property owners that we noticed. So we created tailored notifications for each property owner. So we identified existing general plan, we identified a proposed general plan designation, as well as the existing zoning, which would not be changed. So each property owner has received a notice telling them what changes were being made to their general plan designation, and several of which I've spoken with over the phone now.
Okay, so you're telling me there's strictly general plan designation changes, no zoning changes?
Correct. So the only zoning changes that we've done are, as I had mentioned, we're rescinding the DMU overlay zone and the mixed-use overlay zone, because that's being replaced with the new mixed-use zones chapter in the municipal code. So otherwise, there are no zoning classification changes to any of the properties.
Okay, so all these colored properties on here already have zoning that agrees with what we're about to approve for the general plan.
So it may not necessarily agree with it, but they have the option of developing under the existing zoning, so that we don't take that away, that stays in place. Or should they choose to, they can exercise development rights under the proposed general plan, which also has its own implementing zoning. So they can choose one or the other, more or less. It's giving them more options, more flexibility.
Okay, that helps me, and I'll bring up some other comments later regarding that. I do have a question about the Anaheim Canyon specific plan. Are these maps numbered? I mean, I was looking for reference LU4, specifically having to do with the Anaheim Canyon specific plan, and I couldn't find it, and I kind of assumed this was LU4.
So LU4 is actually the land use table in the general plan. So these are the general plan map changes that are proposed. We just created these individual districts that focused in on given areas so that they were easier for the reader to see.
Okay, so I do understand that some changes will be implemented to allow for residential to be built in the Anaheim Canyon specific plan overlay zone. Is that this brown area to the right, or can it be anywhere?
So yeah, so what you would see here are these are the proposed change sites within the Anaheim Canyon specific plan, and we've probably got another exhibit that'll show the rest of it. But the intent there is to introduce new residential development opportunity where it didn't previously exist. And so again, a property owner could implement the existing zoning, so one of the development areas under the Anaheim Canyon specific plan, or they could choose to develop under an implementing zone of this proposed general plan land use designation.
Okay, so other than the map that I'm looking at this map, are there other areas of the, that is covered by the Anaheim Canyon specific plan that allows for residential?
So I don't believe we broke down these maps specific to the Canyon plan. It was more intended by general areas. So I think, and I don't think we have the boundaries of the Anaheim Canyon specific plan on here.
Well, we know roughly where it is. My concern is, okay, let me, we know the Anaheim Resort is our #1 economic engine in the city, but the Anaheim Canyon's #2. And while I do appreciate the fact that we're going to allow for some workforce housing in the area, I'm kind of concerned that the balance is right, that we're not setting things up for a lot of residential at the expense of losing industrial uses. And I'd like to see a map that shows me that, or something to that effect. Does that make sense?
So it's the images that it's the Tustin Avenue to Imperial Highway 1 and 2. So Commissioner Lieberman, to your question, it is it is not all, so if you are in the canyon to do residential, you would have to have a residential general plan or a mixed-use general plan. So it is not all of the properties. It's just the ones on the exhibits that we provided.
Okay, so as far as residential goes in that area, it's just this brown spot here?
Yeah, correct. And I believe the intent was to focus the residential opportunities near transit.
Okay, thank you very much.
Are there any other questions, Commissioner Perez?
In regards to Assembly Bill 2097, what do they define as a major transit stop? Is it like Arctic, or is it a bus stop, or is it a multimodal transportation center?
Yeah, so perhaps I can probably lean on Joe for some of this, but the definition is a bus stop with minimum headways, I believe, of 20 minutes is the new update that qualifies as a major transit stop. And then also things like Arctic, regional hub.
Do we have a map of all the major transit stops in the city that overlap with our general plan or anything?
Do you have one? Yeah. Thank you.
Commissioner Perez, Rafael Cobin, City Traffic Engineer. So yeah, as Nick identified, a major transit stop is defined a site containing either the following: an existing rail or bus rapid transit station, ferry terminal, doesn't matter here, or an intersection of 2 or more major bus routes with a frequency of service interval of 15 minutes or less. So with those, that is constantly evolving, right? That is not at the direction of the city. That is not something that the city has control over, OCTA does. So for that reason, we don't have maps that we prepare here at the city or that we maintain, because those elements can change all the time. And that can be met one day, and then at the next OCTA board meeting, it's no longer going to be met. So we always point them to the definition and what OCTA provides at that time.
Could we make a safe assumption that on every major thoroughfare intersection is essentially a major transit stop, that if they have a bus stop there? So as an example, right, would we consider the intersection of State College and La Palma a major transit stop, just off the 15-minute bus activation?
I'd have to look to see if they meet the 15-minute headway based on this criteria, but I would say yes. For the most part, our principal arterials are going to have the bus routes that have the most or the shortest headway, so they're most likely to meet that definition.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I will now open the public hearing and ask the Planning Commission Secretary to call forward members of the public who wish to speak on this item.
We invite those that have submitted a speaker card to line up as you see your name displayed on the screen, and approach the lectern as your name appears at the top of the list of names.
Yeah, my name is Greg Lowther, and I'm a property owner in the subject area. And I want to express my support for the project. It's zoning my property to a medium density. I am across the street from a commercial property, so I would like to entertain the possibility of doing a mixed-use overlay on the property. But regardless of that, I want to express my support for zoning my property to the medium density. And I have a letter to each one of you further detailing that. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have nothing to say. I was just filling out the paperwork, but I'm speaking for Humberto and Evelyn, so we're fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other speakers? Oh. Thank you.
So I think we need more information for the residents of Anaheim, especially because a lot of them are monolingual Spanish speaking. And sending the letter, I'm not sure what the threshold language is, but I would think it would have been Spanish in Anaheim. And if maybe I'm wrong, but the letter we received is only in English. and we need a lot more explanation. If I own a home on 620 North Anaheim, is it gonna be rezoned? Am I gonna be forced to sell the house? Because I'm at a 2% interest rate, and it's a duplex, so there's 3 generations of my family members living there. And I don't have to tell you guys what the cost of living in Orange County is, because we could all agree that it's a lot. I would like someone give me an appointment, meet with you guys, show me what the plan is, show me what impact it's gonna have on my aging mother. The parking, I need to know when they said no time limits. Does that mean there's not gonna be parking, or there's gonna be parking? Different strategies, because she is handicapped, and if you take that parking away from Anaheim Boulevard, which the bus stops about like 10 or 15 steps from it. She's on Anaheim, Wilhelmina, and I want to say it's Sycamore, where Guadalajara, Taqueria is at. So just if someone could meet with us, give us information, because a letter is not enough for someone that's lived 26 years there. We need a little bit more information, and you guys need to do either town halls or something with the Hispanic community. They cannot just be ignored. So my name's Grace. If anyone has time, I would like to meet with someone.
I think staff is interested. Thank you. Are there any other individuals from the public who wish to speak? If anyone else would like to speak, if you could please come forward to the podium. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, good evening. My name's Evelyn. I'm here representing my grandparents and my grandpa, Humberto Sanchez. And we are in opposition of the land use element on Ball Road, specifically Berry Avenue. My grandma recently became handicapped. She got her leg amputated, and the house has already been made accessible to her. And we are not interested in relocating, nor is it really like an option. So we are in opposition of the high-density building project on Ball Road. Thank you for your time.
I'm not understanding. We're not actually building anything. You live in a single family?
I think we could direct comments to staff, even too, just so that the public in general is aware about overall.
Okay. Okay.
So is it just like a general plan? Or it's not like set in stone? Okay.
Sure, and if I may, jump in here for the current speaker as well as the last speaker, Nick Taylor, who presented the project, can certainly answer any specific questions on your properties that you have. So maybe, Nick, if you can give out some cards, and then he can walk you through, I think as Commissioner Lieberman is about to say, that this is really fixed. It's either a long-range plan or a plan that fixes some inconsistencies, but it's not a specific project to build anything, and it's most definitely not requiring anybody to vacate a home. So happy to answer any questions. Nick can walk you through after the meeting, any questions that you have.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather. Welcome.
Hello, my name is Connor Martin. I'm a broker here in Anaheim and in Fullerton. I work often with property owners, specifically meeting them by finding their addresses in the housing element and talking to them about potential options. We've been working on a specific property here in Anaheim and looking at a potential redevelopment in a zone that was already industrial, and it looks like the land use is gonna change to mixed use high. And it's the Euclid Street to Anaheim, I wanna say. And it makes no sense for that overlay to change and to discourage industrial development that is gonna bring jobs to the city. So what I'm worried about and what I've seen across a lot of these housing elements in California is it's almost like checking the box to make sure that you're adding the number of units that need to be added, but actually rezoning areas that don't make any sense to be rezoned. To Michelle's example earlier, part of that area that I'm speaking of, there's a 2009, 90,000 square foot urgent care there. That's not gonna become housing ever. And that whole area it's 2000s industrial buildings. None of that's ever going to become housing. None of those property owners are going to say, okay, let me sell my property to a developer, knock down all of these properties and redevelop with housing. It makes no sense. Not all of it is like that, but in certain areas there are. So I just want to have clarification on what these general plan land use designations actually mean, specifically if they're changing from industrial to mixed use high in a highly industrial corridor. And I want to make sure that it makes sense to actually hit the goal of adding the number of units that need to be added.
Thank you. Do we have any more speakers? Does staff wish to respond or? Okay. Okay.
I'll just add, as far as the last comment, so there are properties that today have a industrial zoning that would remain in place. And as Nick mentioned in his presentation, for the properties that are getting a new general plan, one of the actions before the commission is to identify that if you are zoned industrial and you have a general plan that's residential or mixed use, you can either continue to implement and develop under industrial, or you can choose to essentially pull down one of the residential or mixed use options. It's really not taking away anything, not making anything that's existing non-conforming, but just adding options to properties.
Thank you, Heather.
And again, if he has a specific question on a specific property, Nick can walk him through what that looks like.
Perfect. Thank you. So I will now close the public hearing and open up for Planning Commission discussion. Oh, Commissioner Lieberman?
Nick, could you bring that colony map back up, please? Overall, I'm good with this general plan, but I've got a few things that are kind of sticking in my craw. Actually, one thing. And it has to do with the historic district that we're looking at here. And I would think most of the staff here hasn't been around long enough, but about 25 years ago, a large group of citizens worked with planning staff and the city council to have a large chunk of the colony downzoned. This was to alleviate the repetitive infill construction of multifamily residential in what has always been historically single-family residential. And they worked hard at this, and it's been done. And while, as I mentioned, a lot of this is already built out, some of it isn't. Some of it are streets where we're looking at the long ochre swath down at the bottom, which I believe is Lemon Street, and if it is, that side of Lemon is almost all single-family residential. So what are we doing here? I've got some problems here, and while I want to vote for this general plan, I have a real big issue with this one particular thing. So I don't know what to do.
Maybe what does ochre mean to you? I want to make sure
It's
I'm
like
looking at the right.
It's not the dark brown.
what
it's
is
not
the
tan. It's the orangey brownish. Yeah.
Got it.
So Commissioner Lieberman, if I can maybe add some detail to this and some context. So we did a deep dive on the general plan change properties and specifically looked at properties that were either considered contributing structures, historically significant structures on their own, or were on the city's historic interest list. So what we found is that most properties that were receiving a change in general plan actually fell under the situation where we were correcting a discrepancy between general plan and zoning. So we're just making the general plan land use designation consistent with zoning. That was the majority of the properties. So we further looked at the other situations So we found that of the instance where we were actually adding residential density to properties, of those, let's see, give me a second on my notes here. So we found that there were 13 total properties that were either considered a contributor or were on the historic interest list that would receive the increase in allowable density. So none were a historically significant structure on their own. They were on that lesser tier, if you will. Further, we looked at these and we believe that many of them no longer have integrity. And so if we were to do an updated survey, they would likely be excluded from the list, would no longer be considered either a contributor or of historic interest. That being said, you know, we're not losing any existing preservation tools that we already have in place. So we have any new discretionary application that comes forward, there's still a requirement for them to submit a historic resources assessment, and that would be considered as part of the CEQA analysis.
Perhaps you misunderstand me. I'm really not talking about specific historic structures. I'm talking about downzoning was done, and now it looks to me like you're undoing it.
So I think what you're seeing is the result of the C3 plan. And so part of the C3 plan, it was looking at increasing development opportunities along corridors, and then properties that were adjacent to those corridor fronting properties that would also be good candidates for redevelopment, with the goal to increase development opportunities near transit, to also associate or address traffic concerns that would be associated with the new development. And so these land use changes were done essentially to the whole block, to avoid singling out any one property that got left behind and became a remnant general plan of something that was different than those other properties along the corridor. So I think that's what you're seeing in terms of general plan change. That's adding density, so that's not downzoning, but actually adding increased density is those specific scenarios there. The other ones that you're seeing that are not fronting on corridors, those are the ones that are being changed to address the discrepancy between general plan and zoning.
And maybe if I can just add, so specifically, so those are all of the properties on the Citron properties, or, sorry, Ochre, are currently zoned, and it is Lemon, are currently zoned RM3, which is multifamily residential 3. So that what's proposed, as Nick mentioned, is the consistency cleanup to move the general plan to be consistent with that RM3, which is the recommended low, medium density. So currently the general plan is residential low, which is inconsistent with the zoning of multifamily.
Okay, so no zoning changes, no increasing density over the existing zoning.
Correct.
I'm going to quote you on that 10 years from now if I need to. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other, Commissioner Perez?
So this is just to clarify for the public. If we approved this item, the city's not forcing anyone to vacate or sell their property, or we're not buying their property through eminent domain, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, cool. And then now, if we were to move forward, approve this, any private property owner that falls under this, which is everybody, can look at either the general plan, the new updated approved general plan, or their zoning map to see what is allowed to be developed on their property. And there might be some slight variation of what is allowed either on their zoning map or their general plan amendment, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then for the next part, I do think it would be increasingly helpful for the public, and I think the city council, to have a map that shows all this major transit stops. And I say that mainly because if we were to say all of our arterial streets that have a bus line can make that 15-minute, I guess, threshold, half a mile radius of every major transit stop is relatively covers a large swath of the population in the city. So I think that should be a map that should be included for the council in their discussion. But other than that, I mean, I have no other further discussion, and I'll make the motion to approve it.
Any other discussion?
Second the motion, yes.
So we have a motion and a second. If we can take a roll call vote.
Six yes votes, the motion carries.
Thank you. I will now ask if any of the commissioners have any updates that they'd like to share. Okay. Scott?
I've got a couple. So on the Planning Commission meeting of April 7th, we're going to see the tobacco ordinance again. Since your last action, we've made some revisions to the ordinance, and we will be bringing it back to you in its entirety. So you'll see that again. We will also have a Starbucks drive-through project on that date as well. For City Council, on March 25th, is tomorrow night's evening, we have the General Plan and Housing Element Annual Progress Reports. Those are on the consent calendar. We have a nunc-pro-tunc for the annual code update, which was approved in January to correct some clerical drafting errors. And the Mills Act decision that the Planning Commission had made just a few meetings ago was appealed and scheduled for tomorrow night's City Council meeting. However, the applicant has withdrawn this appeal, so it will not be going tomorrow night. And on April 22nd, this general plan update that you have recommended this evening will be going to City Council as well. Those are all my updates.
And if I could add, as Scott mentioned, the tobacco ordinance will be coming back. Bridget and I will be coordinating some opportunities to brief the commission along with the police department. So we're looking at some dates, the 3rd, 4th, and 7th, to have about 30 minutes or so with each commissioner and representatives from police to explain kind of some of the changes that you'll be seeing. So look for a scheduling email forthcoming.
Perfect. Thank you, Heather and Scott. The Planning Commission is adjourned to the meeting of Monday, April 7th. Thank you.